Good afternoon, my name's Josh Harvey.
I'm Vinnie Bremner,
And I'm Mark Galley.
and we're part of Small Print Theatre Company.
Hello guys, how are you today?
Very well,
not
thank
bad.
you.
Not bad.
Cool. Right, we'll go straight into it. Small Print Theatre Company. Where did the name come from? And just tell us a little bit about the company. Anyone. Just explain, there are three of them here.
The name came from, the first performance that we were doing, which is called Dataface, and we were just... originally we were looking at the safety of your personal data and all that, and like if people do read the small print of like things that could affect them in the future when they give out their personal data. So that's where the name of our company came from.
So the company's come more from the performance that you're doing.
It came from the performance, but also that as a theatre company, we want to make performances that come from other things, and we want to get detailed performances. So that's why we call ourselves a small print theatre company.
Going into detail.
Yeah, we've been looking at real life pressing issues and things like that, so the safety of your personal data in this information and technology age where it's so easy to just grab someone else's information off a database off the internet.
We have like a long period of research that we go into so that we understand like where we're coming at and where we're going with the facts and stuff. And that, like I said, small print, reading the small print into all of our research and then taking that all into the rehearsal room and then using it to...
Not a lot of it actually ends up in the show,
No.
but it informs
Yeah.
what we do. So that's where our creative ideas sort of are inspired from the things that we read and things that we see, and it comes from all backgrounds. And I think it's really good that when you've got three different people with three really different sort of backgrounds and of theatre and television and things like that, we're all bringing different things to the table, and so that's why it's been really interesting to sort of approach this project from that angle.
Well, that goes nicely into the project itself, which is called Dataface.
Yeah, the project is called Dataface, and the name came from the fact that our faces are our identity, and the show basically looks at the importance of our identity and how the safety of our personal information can be thrown about quite a lot in our day and age with things like Tesco Club Card points and sign-ups to competitions and there's Facebooks and social media, and constantly we're always putting our personal data and our personal information out into the world, because without doing that we cannot function in the system, because everything is run technologically these days. So we're looking at how that information can be used against us, and the negatives that if it was to go wrong, like it has done in some of the real life stories that we use in our performance, what can actually happen if things start to go wrong.
We're also looking at how that can be abused by other people, so people who make these fake Facebook profile accounts and then trick people into falling in love with them. We've got stories like that happening. We can incorporate that into the performance.
Carolyn Owlett from the 411.
Yeah. There was
Do you remember a band called the 411? They had a little song. It was "You better be dumb, diggy dumb, the don't want."
I must say, no, I haven't.
It was a number one, Tom. I promise.
I didn't know it either until he brought it up. But...
Well, were you not a '90s child, Tom?
I was a 90s child. Well, I was actually an 80s child.
Okay.
2 months of it, but they were great.
2 months.
Well, there's one of the stars that was in that band, this number one hit single.
Yeah.
She one of our stories comes from her, and she had an incident where her Facebook was taken over, and the girl who took it over ended up having a relationship with a man for about 17 months. He believed that he was in love and building up a relationship with this young girl from the 411. And it all ends rather tragically, and to find out you'll have to come and see the show, obviously.
So you say one of our stories, so we know that we've got the sort of overriding theme of personal identity and how that can be used against you and things like that. In terms of, can you give away any more as to what other stories are coming along?
I mean, we did start looking at these real stories, and it was sort of like a base structure that we worked with, and we didn't want to sort of just like basically tell the story. We wanted to find different ways and different techniques to sort of feed the story throughout the performance. So like we visit parts of the story throughout the whole performance, coming back to it, as well as having breaks in it to show like different forms of like identity theft and things like that. So it was like the sort of starting structure was these real life stories, and sort of how to put them on the stage using like vast
Just
amount
to
of
develop
technology.
it in a way.
We're also letting the audience decide their own opinion on if they are comfortable with letting their personal data out. So we've got things like the Leveson inquiry, we explored that, where there was the phone hacking scandals with News of the World. So we've incorporated some things from that. So we are putting a story out there. We're not saying this is what it is, this is bad, this is terrible. No, we're kind of, it's letting the audience make their own opinion on it as well.
It's in a different way as well, because people, we did a lot of research and surveys into what people's understanding of how much sort of our information is out there on the internet, with the governments, on computer systems, and people know that it has to be out there, because when they go to the doctors and they have a check-in, it all comes up on a computer. When they go to order a taxi, they've already still know your name from the previous time you called that taxi company. People know that, but people don't know the importance of the safety that people having that information could be quite lethal. And I think it's quite an interesting way to see it through a performance to how that can be explored, rather than hearing it from councils and governments and people that you're not really going to listen to, because you just sort of shut yourself off from those, because we're busy people. And so I think it's interesting to see personal stories, because when they're real, it sort of hits you a little harder emotionally. So yeah.
I mean, there's an example just like about half an hour ago. I got a phone call from a random number, which was an insurance company, for my mobile phone, because I got a new mobile phone, and I only gave my number to Vodafone, and they've obviously sort of in their contract somewhere that they're allowed to sort of distribute it
to third parties.
That's it, exactly. So, well, I didn't realise that. Obviously, not reading the small print, but yeah, it's things like that where your data is bought by other companies to use for marketing purposes and things like that.
Well, in terms of the actual influences behind the piece, maybe from a more theoretical practitioner level, and maybe even influences from the experiences that you've had, because obviously they've influences the stories, but influences in terms of style. Is there anything you've drawn from maybe a training at Northampton that's come into it?
We originally set out to make this piece like totally postmodern, but that
I hate that word, postmodern.
Yeah,
but as fragmented and abstract.
There's a lot of fragmented and abstract. But then it kind of changed over a while. We now incorporate just a normal straight dramatic style with some scenes, and some things are a bit more ambiguous to what the meaning might be.
It's from like a naturalistic scene, and then straight away snapping into like breaking the fourth wall, things like that we started looking at, and also not to have a sort of beginning and end. I feel like our performance is sort of like ongoing, and we could continue with that. It doesn't sort of this is the ending. It's sort of like a continuous,
not a linear structure.
No. There's no particular narrative that runs through it. And what we really try to do is never to spoon feed the audience. We wanted them to have their completely individual journey, and there to be multiple readership for each scene. So you could be seeing different things that are going on stage. And one particular moment is a character called Simon Bunce, who is another real character from a story where he's had his identity stolen. And we physicalized that character in 3 completely different ways to show the different sides of him. Also, one major thing I think we always do is try and throw the audience and twist their opinions and emotions, so you can see one thing from one angle, and then later on in the play you can see it in a completely different way that changes the audience's opinion of what's happened, which I think is really important with our topic, because especially with identity, it can be quite subjective for the way that you look at something, because when you hear on newspapers, because we have a free press these days, they're mostly opinions, and sometimes when someone gets called a paedophile for something that they may or may not have done, we're very quick to judge or to believe or back the opinion that someone in a paper has told us.
Now, obviously this is your dissertation piece, a very large part of your university study. Now within that comes certain things that your performance has to put across and you have to achieve in order to get the marks that you're looking for. Now, what are those aims? What are you trying to say with your piece from when you've created it?
We started off doing some research over last summer, and that really continued on throughout the entire process of the piece, because it was such a big issue. And in some ways it's bigger than us, because people will still carry on to think about this and deliberate, and it's still in Parliament, and it's going on all around us. And I think what we really wanted to pinpoint was letting people become aware of the importance of their identity. And I think it's changed over time.
We're informing them that the personal data that they think is safe is actually a lot more public than they think. There are, for example, there's 700,000 people in Britain alone that can just access your medical records. So yeah, it's things like that to inform and make people aware of this pressing issue.
Yeah, it is such a cliche to say to make them aware of an issue and things like that, and it's not like we're giving them a solution, because I don't think there is a solution really, other than to sort of like just protect yourselves in
Just be a bit
the
more
ways.
careful.
Yeah, exactly, like bank statements going in the bin instead of shredding and things like that. But it's that's just common sense.
Yeah, and
in
it's
a
not
way,
like
isn't
we're
it?
preaching or
No.
it's a didactic performance that we're saying like these are the dangers, la 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 la.
Yeah.
But we're not. It's kind of like we're just performing and making something really interesting out of this question that we're just posing to people, and they can look in on this little hour that we've created and spent a year doing. Really, that's what this is about. You're spending a year. So when you see one of these performances, you guys at Tap the Table, you're looking at a year's worth of performance. So hopefully when you see it, you can be able to say, yeah, that's a strong piece of performance, because a lot of knowledge and time and work has gone into that.
It's a topic that we've like really enjoyed doing and like interested in, so like it's sort of our enjoyment put into the performance, and hopefully the audience will see that and then enjoy it themselves. That's the main thing, isn't it?
There is also funny elements to our show. It isn't
not
all
like really serious all the time.
It's not going to be all dark and depressing, and that you'll go out into the world terrified of everything. You'll be wearing tinfoil hats in your house to stop the government from getting in your mind.
I can
Now,
slightly testament that.
we have we do have very satirical moments in our show, which genuinely, hopefully, touchwood, quite funny.
We would have gone mad otherwise, and so a lot of the stuff, we went away and we said we'd like a scene on that. So we, instead of devising some of our scenes on our feet playing, we actually went away and wrote some, because we wanted the language to sometimes be fairly complex and sort of a little bit abstract. So wow, I've completely lost my point here. So comedy. There is elements of comedy in there, and there's different styles of comedy. We try to involve the audience at times and things like that, because I think we just go mad. And plus, I think you can only touch someone emotionally if you've made them laugh beforehand. I think strongly.
All of our characters as well that are in the performance, you will care for them, because.
Did I just say touch someone emotionally? That's a bit strange.
Oh, you didn't say physically.
Tom
so
looked
you're all
over
right.
and I was like,
You're all right. It's fine.
we don't touch anyone. It's
point-
okay.
I think the point came across well.
Okay.
Not in a bad sense. In a good.
We didn't say there. We didn't say physically.
Yeah, didn't say. It touched
Yeah.
emotionally.
There's no one getting.
And it's probably been made worse by you drawing attention to it.
Yeah, probably. But we crack on.
Just don't sit in row 2. No, I'm joking. I'm kidding.
Seat J.
Yeah.
We joke. There are no seats yet.
I was making a point, and then we started talking about touching people.
Let's have another question, Tom. Let's go
Yeah,
there.
what I was going to go into is the actual topic itself. What's influenced that? Because you've got obviously the styles that you can influence through your training, through your methodologies and things. But the actual topic itself of that data protection and being under surveillance, everybody coming through, things like that. Was there any one personal
we
experience?
got onto the topic.
Yeah, we were looking at a massive topic, which was surveillance, and then we realised how big and broad it was, and so we sort of finalised it to invisible surveillance. So like sort of things that we don't actually know about, like obviously CCTV is what we can see around us and stuff, but it's sort of like GCHQ, monitoring trigger words in our texts and emails and things like that. So we were looking into that a bit more, and then we found ourselves looking for real life stories, which were mainly all about identity theft and things like that. And that was sort of another subcategory that we went into. And the more we went into that, the more interested we became.
Yeah,
It sort of stuck with
Each
us.
large piece of research whittled us down to pinpointing a smaller topic area. So we started with surveillance, and then we came down to invisible surveillance and identity theft and things like that, and we whittled it down until we found the question: can our personal information be used against us? So we do look at the negative effects of our personal information.
And even though that we rehearsed so much into certain topics and didn't use them, they weren't wasted. It was, like you said before, it sort of finalised and like
Informed everything else.
Yeah.
And how have you found the actual rehearsal process itself? Because it sounds like, from drawing it back to the theory that you're researching, that whittles itself down to the main bulk of what you're looking to do. What about the rehearsal process itself and devising, being up on your feet?
I think what we did was we worked with the Paper Birds last October time, and after that we realised what we needed to do was kind of find a set process of basically sticking to really strong aims and really strong scheduling. So 1 week it would be about play, and we would play and we would use exercises, and it would be loads of different open questions and open sort of really opening ourselves up with play, and then from there we found new ideas. Sometimes we find them at lunch, sometimes we find them when we're sat in our bed, sometimes it's on the train, sometimes when we're working together and we're bouncing off each other. But those ideas got worked upon and developed, and over time they've become the solid scenes within a structure of fragmented sketches in our show. And hopefully we've got this performance where things are changing and moving and flipping all the time, because we feel that in this televisual sort of society and the kind of generation that's coming through, is we get bored really quickly, especially with Vinny because he's ADHD. We get bored.
It's ADD.
Okay, sorry Vin, I've got dyslexia, so that's probably the reason why I got that wrong.
It's not memory loss.
Okay, brilliant. Anyway, so things change all the time because we get bored as performers, so we try to keep things moving all the time and keep them interesting and sort of flipping characters and things like that. So and always exploring new ways to try something, because, for example, you can't have sex on stage. So how do you show that? Do you show that through displaying it physically, or do you show it through
we will not be having sex on stage.
There will
No,
not
that's
be
just an
sex
example.
on stage, just an example, because we're all men and like, not that we don't condone that. We're just not doing that on stage.
I do dress as a woman in the play.
He does dress as a woman, but
There you
it's
go.
not exploring transgender performances. It's
That was actually another
because we
topic
don't
of
have a
research,
woman in
wasn't
our company. That's why. And if you'd like to apply, please go onto our website at www.smallprinttheatre.co.uk.
Fantastic, right. Beyond obviously performing Dataface as your dissertation piece, what's next for Small Print Theatre Company?
This goes on tour.
Yeah, we're if it's good. We've already booked Henley Fringe, which is near where Josh lives in Reading.
Oh, cool.
So we're going to see how that goes. We already have another performance of that's a theatre and education performance. So we're going to be going around to schools and using that. But for the show of Dataface, we're hopefully going to be taking that around the tours and fringe festivals.
Yeah. It's going to be, we're definitely, obviously it's very difficult because when you finish, you graduate, it becomes very complicated because you've got loads of things going on, you're moving and, you're starting your own career and you've got the company and I'm sure you as a company have probably found all the stresses of dealing with your own new lives as graduates. So what we're going to do is when we finish, we know we've got the Henley Festival to go to on the 22nd of July, which will be for a week in the town hall in the middle of the town. It's a lovely area and they love new writing and devised performances, so it'll be great for us to take it somewhere else. And then in the towards the end of the year, we're going to look to start getting this back up on its feet and sort of putting it on tour.
Fantastic. And in terms of the Flash Theatre Festival, where, when, and how can we see you?
So
how much, I should say.
The Flash Theatre Festival is in accordance with the Royal and Derngate Theatre. We will be performing at the Market Walk Shopping Centre from the 29th of April on the Monday at 2:30, on the Tuesday at 11:30 a.m. and on the Wednesday at 6 p.m. I repeat, that's at the Market Walk Shopping Centre. Tickets are £5, but if you're a university student, there is a special university deal, and you just have to call up the Royal Inderne to find out about that offer. We are Small Print Theatre Company, and come see us at Dataface.
Goodbye.
Thank you, guys.
Ciao.
Everyone say bye together.
All right.
Bye.
Like kids' telly.